little louder with your heart. Everybody, a little louder. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare One more time, everybody, a little louder, please. time very loudly with your heart. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to our evening Bhagavad Gita circle reading program. Today we continue with chapter 16 and we should be probably finishing up chapter 16 going into 17. So let's hear more about the last part of the chapter entitled Divine and Demonic Natures. It will be read and explained to us by His Grace Prakshit Prabhu from ISKCON Harrisburg. Without further delay, we'll go right into it. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirveshesha Sunyavari Paschatya Desitarini. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Gadadha Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16, the Divine and Demoniac Natures, text 21. Trividam narakashyadam Dwaram nasanam atmana kama krodha sata lobas tasmad eta trayam tajet. Hare Krishna. Translation by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. There are three gates leading to this hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The beginning of demoniac life is described herein. One tries to satisfy his lust, and when he cannot, anger and greed arise. A sane man who does not want to glide down to the species of demoniac life must try to give up these three enemies, which can kill the self to such an extent that there will be no possibility of liberation from this material entanglement. Better. Okay, good. Text 22. Eta vimukta konteya tamo dwarashtibi nara acharatyatmana shreyas tato yati param gatim. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The man who has escaped these three gates of hell, O son of Kunti, performs acts conducive to self-realization and thus gradually attains the supreme destination. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. One should be very careful of these three enemies to human life: lust, anger, and greed. The more a person is freed from lust, anger, and greed, the more his existence becomes pure. Then he can follow the rules and regulations enjoined in the Vedic literature. By following the regulative principles of human life, one gradually raises himself to the platform of spiritual realization. If one is so fortunate by such practice to rise to the platform of Krishna consciousness, then success is guaranteed for him. In the Vedic literature, the ways of action and reaction are prescribed to enable one to come to the stage of purification. The whole method is based on giving up lust, anger, and greed. By cultivating knowledge of this process, one can be elevated to the highest position of self-realization. This self-realization is perfected in devotional service. In that devotional service, the liberation of the conditioned soul is guaranteed. Therefore, according to the Vedic system, there are instituted the four orders of life and the four statuses of life, called the caste system and the spiritual order system. There are different rules and regulations for different castes or divisions of society. And if a person is able to follow them, he will be automatically raised to the highest platform of spiritual realization. Then he can have liberation without a doubt. Text 23. Ya Shastra Vidim Utsridya Vartate Kamakarata Nasa Siddhim Avapnoti Nasukam Na Param Gatim. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. He who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection, nor happiness, nor the supreme destination. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As described before, the Shastra Vidhi, or the direction of the Shastra, is given to the different castes and orders of human society. Everyone is expected to follow these rules and regulations. If one does not follow them and acts whimsically according to his lust, greed, and desire, then he never will be perfect in his life. In other words, a man may theoretically know all these things, but if he does not apply them in his own life, then he is to be known as the lowest of mankind. In the human form of life, a living entity is expected to be sane and to follow the regulations given for elevating his life to the highest platform. But if he does not follow them, then he degrades himself. But even if he follows the rules and regulations and moral principles and ultimately does not come to the stage of understanding the Supreme Lord, then all his knowledge becomes spoiled. And even if he accepts the existence of God, if he does not engage himself in the service of the Lord, his attempts are spoiled. Therefore, one should gradually raise himself to the platform of Krishna consciousness and devotional service. It is then and there that he can attain the highest perfectional stage, not otherwise. The word karma, karata, is very significant. A person who knowingly violates the rules acts in lust. He knows that this is forbidden, but still he acts. This is called acting whimsically. He knows that this should not be, he knows that this should be done, but he does not do it. Therefore, he is called whimsical. Such persons are destined to be condemned by the Supreme Lord. Such persons cannot have the perfection which is meant for the human life. The human life is especially meant for purifying one's existence. And one who does not follow the rules and regulations cannot purify himself, nor can he attain the real stage of happiness. Text 24. Tasmat shastram pamanam te karya babastito gyatva shastra vinanuktam karma kartum iharhasi. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. One should therefore understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As stated in the 15th chapter, all the rules and regulations of the Vedas are meant for knowing Krishna. If one understands Krishna from the Bhagavad Gita and becomes situated in Krishna consciousness, engaging himself in devotional service, he has reached the highest perfection of knowledge offered by the Vedic literature. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made this process very easy. He asked people simply to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and to engage in the devotional service of the Lord and eat the remnants of foodstuffs offered to the deity. One who is directly engaged in all these devotional activities is to be understood as having studied all Vedic literature. He has come to the conclusion perfectly. Of course, for the ordinary persons who are not in Krishna consciousness or who are not engaged in devotional service, what is to be done and what is not to be done must be decided by the injunctions of the Vedas. One should act accordingly without argument. That is called following the principles of Shastra or scripture. Shastra is without the four principal defects that are visible in the conditioned soul: imperfect senses, the propensity for cheating, certainty of committing mistakes, and certainty of being illusioned. These four principal defects in conditioned life disqualify one from putting forth rules and regulations. Therefore, the rules and regulations as described in the Shastra, being above these defects, are accepted without alteration by all great saints, acharyas, and great souls. In India, there are many parties of spiritual understanding, generally classified as two: the impersonalist and the personalist. Both of them, however, lead their lives according to the principles of the Vedas. Without following the principles of the scriptures, one cannot elevate himself to the perfectional stage. One who actually, therefore, understands the purport of the Shastras is considered fortunate. In human society, aversion to the principles of understanding that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of all fall downs. That is the greatest offense of human life. Therefore, Maya, the material energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always giving us trouble in the shape of the threefold miseries. This material energy is constituted of the three modes of material nature. One has to raise himself at least to the mode of goodness before the path to understanding the Supreme Lord can be opened. Without raising oneself to the standard of the mode of goodness, one remains in ignorance and passion, which are the cause of demoniac life. Those in the modes of passion and ignorance deride the scriptures, deride the holy man, and deride the proper understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They disobey the instructions of the spiritual master, and they do not care for the regulations of the scriptures. In spite of hearing the glories of devotional service, they are not attracted. Thus, they manufacture their own way of elevation. These are some of the defects of human society which lead to the demoniac status of life. If, however, one is able to be guided by a proper and bona fide spiritual master who can lead one to the path of elevation to the higher state, then one's life becomes successful. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purpose of the 16th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of the divine and demoniac natures.
I was wondering if it's okay with you, we can end here and ask for discussion, because at least for me, 3 points came up that I would like you to shed some light on. Probably we can create a discussion. Is that okay?
Yes.
So the question that I have, first, I really want to thank you for reading the few verses, and it's just, amazing how Srila Prabhupada, and the more we read it together, devotees, just some key hidden words of Srila Prabhupada's purport is like so powerful. So this might be a funny question, but I'm actually kind of thinking really deeply. Srila Prabhupada used the term sane man. So we know that in Kali Yuga is so crazy that everyone is so bombarded and bewildered by all this craziness. So what defines a sane man from one who is insane? I'm just wondering.
So life in a human body, the soul that's in the human body, is for understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Life in the human body is to understand that the material energy is no place to be and no place to find happiness in. Therefore, the person that's trying to work hard or come up with different arrangements, the material energy, to come up with something that he calls, or he or she calls, happiness, is not sane. Anxiety is around us all of the time. And what many people are doing that don't understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead is that they're figuring that the intelligence and the technological advancement will provide a solution. But it is very clear to us that life is miserable because birth is difficult, death is difficult, old age is difficult, disease is difficult. None of these have been solved. Yet those are things belonging to life in the material nature, and people are still thinking they're going to be happy despite all of these things that are difficult. Life is bothered by one's own mind. Life is bothered by other living entities. And life is bothered by the things that happen from the demigods, the different types of weather changes, which we have no control over. And still, we are looking for happiness somewhere within the material energy. That is not sanity. So a person that realizes that these things are troublesome, they realize that they are in the material world, is a place of the house of correction, it's jail, and things are going to be miserable. They understand that the home for the soul is in fact outside of here in the spiritual world, and that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the one responsible for everything that we see here, and also in the material energy and in the spiritual world. That person is a sane person, understands things as they are. The one who, with that knowledge, surrenders and serves the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that is obeying his instructions as he said and described things in the Bhagavad Gita, is even more intelligent. The one that makes the decision to surrender themselves to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is where sanity is, because he owns the spiritual world, and surrendering to the Lord and serving him in love will in fact cause mercy to be bestowed upon the soul, and getting out of the material world will become a possibility. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for shedding light on that. That was, the way Srila Prabhupada said sane man, I had to think, wow, that's a pretty statement, a pretty interesting statement, than what identifies the saints. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Would like to ask devotees, with a small group, so let's have a nice discussion if possible. Any thoughts, any takeaways, any reflection, or just sharing what's coming to your mind from what we have read, the past 4 verses. Please do share your thoughts. Another thought that came to my mind when you were reading is, Srila Prabhupada used the word whimsical
Mm.
few times. And sometimes and he said one's own one's own whims. And then he used the word whimsical. I jotted down these words. Can you shed some light on how can one be aware? I think that's the key word. How can one be aware that he or she is practicing something whimsically? Like, how can we be aware of it?
The way of practicing Krishna consciousness has been described by the bona fide spiritual master, and it is also supported in the scriptures. So, on top of that, there are sadhus who are fixed up, who are practicing devotional service properly. If we are supposed to obey the regulated principles and we don't, then we are not going according to the scriptural injunctions, according to the do's and don'ts in this particular way of service to the Lord in Kali Yuga. That will be called whimsical. Now, we know that we're not pure, many of us, excuse me. And so sometimes we do fall into the cracks, for a way of lack of a better way of putting it. When we go on hearing and chanting and put our hearts out to serve, even sometimes when with a good understanding, we force ourselves to serve so that we can get a taste later on, then the purification will in fact happen. Now, whimsical is going against what the spiritual rule of law is, basically. That's what it is. But as we say that, it is not to let anybody feel that, well, they are just a lost case because we're not perfect, we don't do everything perfectly. Sometimes, as we said, we fall through the cracks, and things that we're not supposed to do, we wind up doing, and things that we should do, we don't do. It is a process of purification. Guru Maharaj, the Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, put it this way: everybody is fighting their Kurukshetra war. Everybody is in it. So that is the analogy that he gave. And in Kurukshetra war, if you're there, then Maya is on the other side. He will fire arrows at you, and there will be some injuries. But Krishna, if once a person is fixed up in the understanding that Krishna consciousness is what they're going to lead their life to, they'll never leave it, then the chance of Krishna protecting and giving the mercy is also there. Therefore, the point we're making is, despite our mistake, despite sometimes our whimsical action, we should, in fact, stay in the process and not give up hope. In fact, it is told exactly the opposite. We should be more determined. We should be more determined. We should take stock of how our spiritual life is going. And when we realize that some things are not as great as it's supposed to, good in terms of our performance as it's supposed to be, that we know we're not up to that level, then we should, in fact, be more determined to pray, find out the cause of it, get spiritual advice, and take the process even more seriously by being more determined. Christians are always giving a chance for somebody who says, yes, I believe that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That person always gets chances to rectify whatever it is that they do that is not right, so that they can, in fact, gradually go through purification. The Srila Prabhupada has already mentioned gradual purification is a gradual process. There's so many other things that Maya will bring out for us to realize that we're not really at the standard that we know we can be, or we've been there and something has happened for us to slack, and therefore, we should turn things around and be more determined to stay with the spiritual process and improve the places that we are falling short of. It's always good to associate and reveal the minds, our minds to those that we can trust and ask for help. The more we hear, the more answers will come also. Let us keep up. Krishna's mercy is so prevalent that sometimes even just by listening one lecture after another, there's so many things that will come, which is knowledge that we didn't have, and also things that are solutions to the difficult parts that we're having in the process. We have lived lifetimes and lifetimes of material life. So to change the Krishna consciousness, abandoning the material way we used to live, is not something that's going to happen overnight. But we need to stay with the process and put our hearts, whenever we serve, put our hearts in it, knowing that that is of prime importance. Spiritual activity is more important than material activity. So then we take put more serious effort into our more serious effort into our spiritual activities. Then little by little, gradually, we will become better devotees. So don't give up. Yes, sometimes we act not according to the ways of the spiritual life or spiritual rule of law, but as long as we are willing to change and give a try to do better, there's always a chance of that effort earning us the mercy of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you used a very nice word that is the key point. Yes, willing to change, the phrase willing to change. I think that's the point, that the question always comes down to our determination to want to change. That will bring about positive results in the proper way. Thank you. Yes, Pavana Prabhu, I was hoping you would say something because I'm tired. I don't want to do the
Hare
talking.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, accept my wishes, Jai Shri Prabhupada. So Prabhu, thank you for bringing up the point of determination. And one of my Siksha gurus used to always, teach. I hear him speaking that one should daily, many times, go in front of Krishna and loudly say, "Hey Krishna, may I never forget you. Hey Krishna, may I never forget you. I'm yours. I'm yours. I'm yours. May I never forget you." Because in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, "Matha smriti jnanam apohanam cha." I am the cause of remembrance and forgetfulness. So, on our own, we may forget, but if we also ask Krishna to share the burden of helping us, be more determined, and so Krishna will help sincerely. And it's not that after praying like this, you can do nonsense, then it doesn't ever works. But if we are sincere and if we pray like this, the determination grows because it is aided by Krishna's mercy also. So I just wanted to share because, determination is very important in Krishna consciousness.
Yes, very much so. And Rupa Goswami tells us we always should remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. So that was one nice technique that he said to your Shiksha Guru, told you, go in front of the picture of Krishna or the deity of Krishna as much as possible during the day and present yourself so that you can, in fact, be helped by the Lord to remember. Yes, I'm seated in everyone's heart. For me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Bhagavad Gita 15:15. That is Krishna saying that. So if we go to him, we'll definitely remember him. The more often we go to him, the more we chant his holy name, the more we remember him. And if we remember him like that, then we'll remember him at the time of death also, which gives us the opportunity to go back to the spiritual world. Hare Krishna, very important point.
Hare Krishna.
That was a nice word, Prabhu, you mentioned, because when you were speaking that and sharing that, I was thinking about this morning's Bhagavatam class we had, that I picked a quote from Srila Prabhupada's purport. Actually, one of his Vani quotes from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 17, and I think it's verse 43, where Srila Prabhupada used the word determination, that in order for us to want to develop, I'm trying to paraphrase here, to be followers of the principles of religion of Maharaj Parikshit, is one have the determination to want to act on it. You know, so I was remembering that when you were mentioning your point, Pavana Prabhu, that we have to have the determination to want to take action, you know, like say prayer. Only then will the Lord reciprocate. And then I was remembering Madandrani's famous slogan. I don't know whether you remember that, Pavana Prabhu. Anyone she sees, remember what she would always tell us at the end?
No.
Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna.
That's wonderful.
She always said that. She always said that. Yes. She always made sure that she always told the boys at the end, before they have spoken to her, before that they leave, she'll always say, always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. She always reminded that the devotees that. Thank you for sharing that. And Dira Krishna Prabhu, I wanted to ask you, your chat, did you mean Jay or jail? Just picking on. I'm wondering what he said, Jay, or did he mean jail?
Oh, maybe I mistyped J. No, it is J with exclamation mark.
It's okay.
I tried exclamation mark and it didn't come out right, I guess.
It's fine.
So it's what, Jai?
He
Jai,
meant
yeah,
Jai, but
Okay,
I have to know, did he mean Jai or did he mean jail?
It's Jai, but we are in jail though.
Thank you for saving me.
Hare Krishna.
We
Shut
are
up,
in
Babu.
this invisible jail, right?
Shut up, Babu, with the
Completely.
question
Um,
in the
no,
text.
he was making a comment, Jai, to what Papanav Prabhu was saying about determination.
Yeah, but Shorab has also put a text out there.
Oh, wait, I missed it. Wait. Oh, yes. Oh, very nice. He said, at last, Prabhupada says that spiritual master will lead one to successful life. I want to know, I want to know how, wait.
How to know that?
How to know if I want initiation from a particular spiritual master, right, Shorab? That's what you meant, right?
Yeah. How to
Okay.
know that I want initiation from a particular. Well, initiation is important first. You got to get a Diksha Guru because that's the one that takes you back and pleads your case after you leave your body. He also is charged. He also agrees to guide the disciple to grow in Krishna consciousness. Two things. To guide the disciple back to the spiritual world. And when the disciple leaves the body, the soul is pleaded for by, he acts like a defense attorney, the Shiksha Guru. So it is important to have initiation. Now, which Guru you're going to get initiation from depends on Krishna leading you to it. By the mercy of Krishna, one gets Guru. So the more you take the process of the sadhana bhakti, the chanting, the hearing, and the serving from your heart, especially trying to obey Srila Prabhupada's injunction, that is definitely and steadily getting up to the point where you are chanting a minimum of 16 rounds daily. When you get to that point and you're serving from your heart and you're also hearing like you already do, hear nicely, you're hearing now, then Krishna will arrange. We're steady in doing that, steady in chanting, steady in hearing, steady in serving. Then Krishna, from the heart, the Lord in Paramatma, will guide you to a particular person which will inspire you, a Guru will inspire you, and then the initiation arrangement will be made. So Krishna is the one that initiates the whole process of connecting you to a particular spiritual master.
Can I just say something quickly? I think I had to reread his question. And I think what he's asking is, how do I know that I want initiation?
How do you know that you want initiation from a particular from particular Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, so it's a little bit
That's
different.
that's the last part
Hare
we talked
Krishna.
about.
Okay, go ahead, Shaurabh. Go ahead, Shaurabh.
Yeah, I know Prabhuji answered my question. Yeah.
Yeah, it is through the mercy of the Lord that leads to a particular spiritual master.
As long as we got your answer, your question answered, Shaurabh, that's all that matters. Thank you for confirming, Shaurabh. Yes, Papana Prabhu, go ahead.
So Mataji, I think Saurabh Prabhu posted that Prabhupada said he will lead. So that reminded me of an incident. If you don't mind, I would like to quickly share.
Yeah.
Please.
While Srila Prabhupada was present here on this planet, there was a devotee called P.L. Sethi, and he used to help the devotees with temple construction. So I think this is in Bombay. One day, P.L. Sethi says that he was working with the concrete, cement, and everything, and his clothes were all dirty because of cement and everything. But Prabhupada, he knew, was sitting with, inside the temple. So he wanted to go and pay his obeisances, but he was hesitant. So then he finally decided, let me go and see Guru Maharaj. So he went and he paid obeisances to Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada saw that he came right from the construction sites. He was very happy. He says, you're working very nicely for Krishna. I'm very happy. So he says, Prabhupada, I wanted to come see you, but I was hesitant because I'm very dirty. So Prabhupada says, being dirty, don't worry. Just keep serving, because even if you're dirty, I'll come and take you back home, back to Godhead. That's my job. You don't worry about that. So that is Prabhupada leading, right? If we just keep surrendered to him and keep in his shelter, he will lead us.
Very much so. Very much so.
It just reminded me of this incident. So
that's a beautiful pastime, Prabhu. Thank you for sharing that. Just hearing it gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, and I think the way, I'm not doing a lot of justice to it, but the way Prabhupada spoke was, he didn't mean if you're dirty from outside, from anywhere you're dirty. You keep serving Krishna and his devotees, and he says, I will take you back home, back to Godhead. So.
Yeah, he's opened the road, actually.
Yeah.
Because a devotee is supposed to chant 64 rounds, and I never forget that. He has brought the process down to 16 rounds, which means he has actually opened the road 4 times bigger than it would have, allowing more people to go in, because how many people would chant 64 rounds a day unless they were really, really serious?
Yeah, 4 times more mercy than any other spiritual master before.
Yes. Yeah.
So true, Prabhu. So true. In fact, it's very nice that Shaurabh asked this question, because the first and foremost that we've always been told that, if we do not have a spiritual master that we are aspiring for, Srila Prabhupada is everybody's preeminent spiritual master, just like what Papana Prabhu said the past time. So exactly. So Srila Prabhupada is everybody's preeminent spiritual master. So if we have the desire of wanting to aspire for spiritual master, then we just go to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada will guide us. Srila Prabhupada, we pray to him and he will guide us and he will lead us. And then he will open up channels for us to listen to other spiritual masters, and whichever spiritual master that we feel that we have a heart connection with, a calling. Like I've had the same discussion with my children. Now, my girls, no more kids anymore, when they were younger, and even with other young devotees, I always tell them the best thing is to expose yourself and hear other spiritual masters, and you should have a heart connection, like a telex, that, oh my God, this is really, it's really, it's really touching me. It's just really touching me. And, and it's hard to explain, but that will happen. And, but Prabhupada is the first and foremost preeminent guru that will help us to find our spiritual master that we can take initiation from. So we just pray to Srila Prabhupada and he will lead us. He will guide us and he will lead us. But yeah, that's the best way to do it. Is just go to Srila Prabhupada and he will lead us to a successful life of finding the right spiritual master. Very nice question, actually, Shaurabh. Thank you. Any other questions from devotees? Papana Prabhu, you want to say something, Prabhu?
No, Mataji, I forgot to lower my hand.
I can do it for you. Don't worry. Just wanted to
I'm
make sure. that-
driving and maneuvering all these things.
No,
Sorry.
no, it's fine. I just didn't want to ignore you if you had a question, Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Any other questions from devotees? Any other thoughts? Any reflections? Takeaway? It's always nice to have discussions. It just brings up a lot of thoughts and openness and leaning on one another, helping each other to grow. It's all about community building, and how we can serve together and support each other in devotional service. So it's always nice to hear from devotees. And if there's no questions, we thank you all for joining us. Vanchakraptubhyascha, Kripasindubhevachcha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.